All right, our next section, 2-3, is called standard form of a line. Just before we get there, just to refresh your memory, 2.1, we learned slope intercept, which is y equals mx plus b. And then 2-2, we learned point slope, which is this formula right here, where you just simply substitute the m in and then substitute the point. That's why it's called point slope. You only need a point and you only need a slope. On slope intercept, you need the slope and the y-intercept. That's why those have those unique names, because that's what you need. So this is called standard form. Standard form is in a certain order for, it has several applications why it's in this order. But one of the reasons here, you have ax plus by equals c. Okay, that's standard form. And notice the ABC must be integers, the ABC. So these are the numbers in front of X and Y, and then C is just a number over on the side. So here's some examples. You could see 3X plus 4Y equals 10. So here the A is 3, B is 4, and C is 10. Again, they're just integers. They're just numbers. They cannot be decimals or fractions. They just have to be integers. And notice the X and the Y are right here on, you have A, this is AX plus BY equals C. So you can see your A, you can see your B, you can see your C. So here you have negative 1X, so negative 1 is your A, 5 plus 5, so positive 5 is your B, and then C is your 8. And the same thing here, you have 9 is your A, 1 is your B, and then negative 3 is your C. But again, A, B, C must be integers. So if I gave you something like this, so 2x, and I already have this worked out, so just focus at the top, follow along with me. So if I gave you that equation, is it in standard form? Well, no, it's not. Remember, you have to have AX plus BY equals C, and ABC all have to be integers. So because B is not an integer, you have to get rid of that fraction on the bottom, which is 3. So to get rid of it, we're going to multiply everything by 3. So that's what I did. I literally multiplied this by 3, multiplied this by 3, multiplied this by 3. So here you have 2 times 3, which is 6. That's 6. 3 times 1 is 3. And again, you still have the 3 on the bottom, so 3 over 3, which reduces to 1. And then 4 times 3 is 12. So I multiplied everything by 3. And so once you have it in standard form, now you can see the A is 6, the B is 1, and the C is 12. And of course, it's now in standard form. All right, so how do we graph it in standard form? Well, one way to do this, I mean, this is just one possible way to do this. You could just simply, and a lot of students like this way because they like y equals mx plus b. They like graphing using the slope-intercept method. So you could simply just solve for y equals mx plus b. So you could subtract 4x from both sides. That's what I did on this step, and then I divided everything by 6, and now I have y equals mx plus b. And then you could see the m is negative 2/3, and the y-intercept is 2. So you can just go start at the y-intercept at 2. And then the slope is down 2 over 3, put a point, down 2 over 3, put a point, and then you can just simply connect the dots. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Again, a lot of students like this. They like the slope-intercept method right here, y equals mx plus b. But one of the quickest ways to do it, if it's in standard form is very quick to graph if you do a certain method. So the quickest way to graph standard form is to find the x and the y intercepts. And all you have to do is substitute 0 in. That's it. It's actually very easy math to be able to do this. So it's really 2 steps. So first you're going to substitute 0 in for x, and then you work it out. And that's what I did. I have it all worked out here. So I substitute 0 in for x, and then I ended up getting y is 2. Well, if x is 0 and y is 2, that means I have the point 0, 2. And notice that is on the y line. So this right here is actually your y-intercept. because that point is on the y line. Now, let's step two. Step two, if I want to substitute 0 in for the y right here, substitute 0 in for y. I do the math, 0 times 6 is 0, divide both sides by 4, and I get x equals 3. Well, x is 3, and y was 0, because remember, I substituted 0 in for y. So if I go to 3, 0, I have a point right there. So notice this red dot is on the x line. So this is actually your x-intercept. So again, this is your x-intercept because it hits the x line. And this is your y-intercept because it hits the y line. And then if you graph this line, and notice it's the same line as this. So there's two ways to graph it. It's the same equation. It's the same equation. You can simply just plug in 0 for your x, plug in 0 for your x, and it actually gets the y-intercept. Plug in 0 for the y, and it actually gets the x-intercept. And again, you just simply find where it crosses, right there, where it crosses the y line and where it crosses the x line. Those are your intercepts. This red line crosses the x line and the y line. That's why they're called intercepts. They cross at those 2 points. And so it's very easy to graph using this method. So let's try another one real quick. And all you have to do is, again, plug in, and I'm just going to do this using an XY chart. So if I plug 0 in for x, and then I'm going to plug 0 in for y. So if I plug 0 in for x, so you literally put a 0 right there. And then you solve for y, you're going to end up getting -9/2. If you actually solve for y, so 0 times 3 is 0, so you're going to be -2y equals 9, divide by -2, divide by -2, so I got -9/2, or -4.5, if you want to think of it as a decimal. So 0, and this is a point, remember, on your XY chart is a point, so 0, -4.5 is right here, -4.5. And again, when you substitute 0 in for x, it actually finds the y-intercept. So this is actually the y-intercept because it hits the y line. And now if you substitute 0 in for y, so here's the equation, 3x minus 2y equals 9, but I'm going to substitute 0 in for y. So you actually get 3x equals 9 because this just goes to 0. And then divide both sides by 3, so x equals 3. So 3, 0. Again, this crosses notice it crosses the x line. So this is actually the x-intercept. When you substitute 0 in for y, it gets the x-intercept. And then, of course, you graph your line that crosses through both of those points. So it's a very quick way to graph. If it's in standard form, the quickest way to graph it is plug in 0 for x and 0 in for y. So let's look at some more things dealing with this. So if you have standard form, you have ax plus by equals c, but what if a is 0? So literally, if I put 0 there, then 0 times x is just 0, so this is just, it basically is gone. And then you just basically have by equals c. So here's an example. So if I say graph this, and you're like, well, what is that? I mean, remember, this is actually 0 right here, okay? So in other words, the a is 0. So this right here literally is when a is 0. So if I ask you to graph this, you just divide by 5, solve it like a normal equation, and y is 2. That means y is 2, no matter what x is, because a was 0. So a, and what if x was 1? If a is 0, it's still going to end up being 0. So don't matter what x is, y will always be 0. So if you think about the XY chart, don't matter what x is. So x can be anything, y will be 2. X can be anything, but y will be 2. X can be anything, but y will be 2. So no matter what x is, it could be 0, it could be -3, it could be 5. No matter what x is, y is 2. Again, because the x ended up crossing out because a was 0. There was no x to begin with because of the a crossed it out. So if you graph this, 0, 2, -3, 2, 5, 2. I mean, if you kept going, I mean, you'd have a point there, point there, point there, point there, point there, point there, point there. And it's just basically a horizontal line at y equals 2. Again, so when a equals 0, when there is no, no x right there showing, and I ask you to graph it, it just says y equals 2, it's going to be a horizontal line. Well, the same thing, well, what if the b is 0? So what if this is actually gone? This is actually gone, and you just have this. If I ask you to graph this, you just divide both sides by 5, x equals 2. So again, it doesn't make a difference what, again, think of the xy chart. So x is going to be 2, and it doesn't make a difference what the y is. So it literally doesn't make a difference. So whatever the y value is, you want to put 3 or 5 or -1 or 0 or whatever it is, the x's will always be 2. So if you graph those 2, 3, 2, 5, 2, -1, 2, 0, and notice that's just going to be a vertical line. So again, when there is no y, if you just simply have x is going to be a vertical line for that. And just as a side note, we talked about this on the last lesson. The slope of this guy, remember if you draw your green man with a nice haircut, he literally has slope of 0. He's not going uphill, he's not going downhill, it's slope 0. And on a vertical line, the slope of this guy is actually undefined. So this is actually an undefined slope. All right, so let's look at some more possible problems. Write y equals 4x minus 10. So notice this is in standard form. I mean, this is in slope-intercept form, but I want to write it in standard form. Remember, ax plus by equals c. And then, so all you have to do is bring the x over, the ax, bring it over to the other side. So negative 4x plus y equals negative 10. Now, is that standard form? Is that ax plus by equals c? Yes, it is. So that's all I had to do is put it in standard form. So this one right here, I'm going to add 1/2 x to both sides. And so I have 1/2 x plus y equals negative 7. Is that standard form? Well, not quite. It almost is. Remember, you have to have integers. You can't have a fraction here, so you're going to simply multiply everything by 2. So now this becomes x plus 2y equals negative 14. Now that is in standard form. And then one last problem. What if I had 2 points and I wanted to find a writing equation of a line that passes through those 2 points, but I want to do it in all 3 forms. I want to show that I know how to do all 3 forms. Well, first find the slope. So if you follow that formula, you're going to end up getting 9 over 1, or just simply 9. Now, point slope form, y minus y1 equals parentheses m parentheses x minus x1, and the slope is 9, and you choose one of those points. It does not make a difference. I'm just going to choose the second one, okay? So x minus 3, and then y minus 6. I'm done. That's point slope. Now, slope intercept, if you take this right here and you use the distributive property, and then you add 6 to both sides, notice you have 9x minus 21, and that's slope intercept. So that was easy to do, slope intercept. And then standard form, all you need to do is now take this, and you're going to minus 9x from both sides. And so now you have negative 9x plus y equals negative 21, and now it is in standard form. So I literally started with point slope, and then I put it in point slope, and then I put it in, I rearranged it to get to slope intercept, and then I rearranged it to put it in standard form. And I did all 3 of them probably within a minute's time. And that's how you do standard form.